Welcome into The Fade. I am Clay Travis. She is Kelly Stewart. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us as we have yet another triple header of spectacular football action. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We are coming to you on Friday, later than normal because I've been running around like crazy this week. I will be with some of our team at OutKick down for the Indiana-Miami game. On Monday, we'll get to that one last because it is actually the final game that is taking place. I was talking earlier about the fact that I thought they should play it tonight on Friday night. But let's go right into NFL action, Kelly. First game of the quintuplet, the five, is Bills against Broncos. You are a longtime Broncos fan. I am rooting for Josh Allen and the Bills to get the win. Now, this line, I want to pull it up and make sure that you probably know it right off the top of your head, but it's been moving around so much. I just took the Bills on the money line, Kelly. I think that Josh Allen is going to find a way to go on the road against a young Bronco team that has not been here before. The Bills have already gone on the road and won a tough game against the Jags. The Bills initially, I think, were a 1.5-point favorite. Now this line has swung to the Broncos being around a 1.5-point favorite. So again, more so on the money line than anything else here. This has been impactful. But again, I'm taking the Bills straight up. I'm not going to complicate it on the money line. If I were going to play it on the over-under, I would probably take the over just because the Bills' defense has been suspect and required their offense to put up a lot of points oftentimes to win games. So I'm on the Bills against the Broncos. What is the market telling us, Kelly, with this line move, which is, 3-point swing across the side of who's favored, which is fairly decent, significant-wise in the overall NFL marketplace, which doesn't tend to move that much. What say you?
Look, I love Josh Allen. As a Broncos fan, I laughed because I've been very hard on this team all season long. And that's because last year as underdogs, they were a great bet on team. This year as favorites, not so much. Clay, I'm going to take the easy way out. I teased the Broncos as soon as this line came out, plus 1.5 over that touchdown, over 7.5. And I'm going to take the other side with the Bills over that touchdown as well. I think this is going to be a great game. I'm not going to say it's going to be the best game of the weekend, but I think it is going to be close within margin. I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw last week in Jacksonville. If you remember, I was on the Jags. And look, ultimately, Buffalo scored too early. What were they doing? You're going to give Cam Little an opportunity to kick a game-tying field goal and take that to overtime? Luckily for Bills fans and Bills backers, Trevor Lawrence threw an interception. Otherwise, that game could have went very differently in overtime, and we might not be talking about this Buffalo team in Denver. Here's the real reality. The last time the Broncos won the Super Bowl, how'd they do it? With a offensive coordinator in Peyton Manning, who was basically a statue, and a really solid defense. This defense looks absolutely incredible. They put pressure on the quarterback like none other. This is a Broncos defense that is young, that is hungry, and I think they are going to make Josh Allen's life pretty miserable on Saturday. If you remember last week, he took some really big shots against Jacksonville's defense. If I was his O-line, I would be probably saying, hey, Josh, you can have the Christmas presents back. We're sorry, guy. I don't know how much more he can really continue to take here. I think Denver's offense has finally turned a corner. And if Bo Nix does not turn the ball over, I think he is the biggest X factor here. I think the Broncos will win the game. Again, NFL games are not supposed to land one, but they have in a significantly strong fashion. So if you could have gotten Denver plus 1.5, Denver, pick 'em. Now Denver -1, I'm going to say it. You're a little late to the party. I don't like laying points with the Denver Broncos, but I do think that they have an opportunity to eke out this win. But again, I'm going to be a wuss. I'm just going to opt out and hope this game lands within a touchdown on either side.
All right, I'm Bills money line. 49ers Saturday night game, Kelly, plus 7.5 is what I got them against the Seahawks. Number has ticked down a little bit. I think a lot of people are piling onto the Seahawks, frankly, because of what we saw in the final week of the regular season when the Seahawks went on the road and dominated against the 49ers. Plus, George Kittle is now injured. The overall status of the injury situation for the 49ers over the past several years has continued to be absolutely destructive. They're one of the most injured teams again this year. And what Kyle Shanahan has done, frankly, to get this team to the final 8 is flat out extraordinary, frankly. Having said all of that, I understand why people are coming in on the Seahawks. I'm going to take the 49ers. If you go back to the game in San Francisco just 2 weeks ago, whatever the math is, 49ers were favored. Now if I'm not mistaken, Kelly, now we've swung a full 10 points basically in the favor of the Seahawks. That is a huge line swing that I don't think is supported by what we have seen on the field between these teams. I think the value is on the 49ers as a big road underdog now against the Seahawks. What about you?
Look, I'm not in the business of laying over a touchdown with a team in the division, particularly when the road team has won both games outright this season. But I'm going to say this. I have a 20-1 San Francisco 49ers ticket, and I don't feel great about it. You mentioned the injuries and how they piled up throughout the season. Now George Kittle is hurt again. Christian McCaffrey is only one man. And who has the top 3 rushing defense in the league? That's right, the Seattle Seahawks. So if you're the prop better type, I like his under rushing yards. Depending on where you like to shop, you can get it under 57, 56 and a half. So kind of look out for that one. I think that he is going to run into a buzzsaw with that defense. I would love nothing more than San Fran to win this game, Clay, and get to the conference championships. I just think they're going to run out of gas here. We saw Purdy last week, 2 really bad turnovers. He cannot do that against Seattle. And that is where it's going to get really, really tough. If you remember that last game you mentioned, Kenneth Walker just absolutely torched the San Francisco's defense. I believe that was the first game without Fred Warner. So keep in mind here, this is going to be a lot closer game than margin. I think San Fran is the square dog. I think everybody loves them after knocking off last year's Super Bowl champs. I cannot lay 7.5 with Seattle. It's just not something I like to do. But I do have a lot of injury concerns as well as travel concerns with San Francisco, right? You're leaving San Fran, going all the way to Philly, coming all the way back to San Fran, now Seattle. So keep in mind, I think Seattle got the number 1 seed for a reason. Kudos to Sam Darnold, by the way. I mean, first quarterback since 1950 to win 14 games in his first season with a new team. So he's doing unprecedented things because I think the Seattle team is unprecedented. The only way I can look here is Seattle. Again, I mentioned teasers with the Bills. I think Seattle makes a really good teaser spot here.
Okay, that is the Saturday action. I'm on 49ers. I'm on the Bills money line. Let's go into Sunday. Texans, Pats. Kelly, I think it's going to be a brutal, ugly, nasty defensive struggle. I'm going to take the Pats and the under. CJ Stroud was awful. I know everybody focused on Mike Tomlin stepping down as the coach of the Steelers, and maybe it was Aaron Rodgers' last game. But CJ Stroud, I mean, good Lord, he couldn't handle the football. This was a win for the Texans defense, I think, more than it was anything about the Texans offense at all. Mike Vrabel, Foxborough, the Magic may or may not be back, but I am taking the Patriots. I'm taking the under in this one. What about you?
Clay, I was screaming about the Broncos being a little fraudulent. New England, are they fraudulent? Possibly. Have they played the easiest schedule of the remaining playoff teams? Absolutely. You mentioned CJ Stroud, and while he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to take over his passing yards, he looked so bad. That Steelers game was 7-6 forever, and then all hell broke loose due to that Houston defense, who I think has still been quietly flying under the radar. This is a team with 2 defensive TDs and less than 200 yards allowed on Monday Night Football, and we're catching points with them here on the road. It almost looks too good to be true. New England's defense also looked great. Justin Herbert was getting ran all over. 11 hurries, 6 sacks. 1 in 10 on third down. I mean, they made it look like the Chargers didn't even deserve to be there. I was dead wrong on the Chargers plus 3.5. And I might be dead wrong here on taking the points with Houston. But as I always say, take the better defense plus the points. I like the Texans here to get it done in New England.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I'm on the under in the Pats. We're on opposite sides. All right. Rams, Bears. They are begging, it seems like, for money. I know you said there's a lot of risk here, but the Bears plus 3.5 at home, brutal cold weather game for an indoor LA sports team. I'm taking the Bears in the over. And Kelly, I understand that the Bears, whatever the math is, are an improbable Final 8 team. That their comebacks that they have put together are absolutely extraordinary, and you would typically not ever have seen a team put together the fourth quarters that they have, the comebacks that they have. But I think this is going to be an electric home environment. The weather is going to be brutal. I know how well Matthew Stafford has played. I know how good of a coach Sean McVay is. All of those things militate in many ways, I think, towards you should take the Rams. And certainly Vegas is telling me, by giving me the extra half point, we want you to come in and take the Bears because we think that the Rams are going to run away with this game. I just don't see it. So I'm going to take the hook. I'm going to take the Bears plus the 3.5. I also think even in cold weather, I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I love the Bears defense in the second half. I know everybody focused on Caleb Williams, but I actually thought the Bears defense took control of that game and pulled it out of the Packers win column. But what do you expect in the final game at night, frigid Soldier Field?
It's almost as if you should just never bet the Bears pre-flop. Last week, I had the Bears in teasers. It was 21-3, and I was complaining to my buddies in my gambling group chat, like, what an idiot. What was I thinking? They're going to get blown out. Here's the Bears team I've been screaming about all season long. And my buddy Dan goes, Kelly, just take the Bears second half. And I said, what? No, this is the Packers are going to run away with this one. And the Bears
You were running away from your bet, and you should have just doubled down on it at halftime.
Basically is what he was saying to me, and he was not wrong. This has been the best second half team we have seen all season long. Caleb Williams deserves his flowers, and I know Bears fans are shocked to hear me say this, but they had their largest postseason comeback and first playoff win since 2010. So I can complain about them in the metrics and the math all we want, but they keep finding ways to win the game. And look, I'll be honest with you. I think the bookmakers across Vegas, across the nation, all have huge liabilities on the Rams. I think a lot of people bet the Rams to win the Super Bowl. So they're going to book this game accordingly, right? If they don't want Rams money, they're going to give you a reason to take Bears money. And you mentioned that 3 in the hook, and it looks rather enticing. I think regardless, you just wait until halftime and then bet the Bears. I would not take the 3.5. We just saw again last week, Rams 14-0 versus Carolina. I had a Carolina ticket in my pocket. I said, well, that was stupid. And guess what? The Rams let teams hang around. We've seen them do it all season long. Matthew Stafford always seems to be good for a stupid turnover that kind of flips the game on its head. You can't do that against this Bears defense. I'll tell you that much. Here's the real reality. You mentioned the cold weather that we just keep hearing about. Yet this total is so high. And that's because snow, rain, things like that don't affect the total near as much as the wind. I've come on here every single week over the winter and said, I'm not a meteorologist, but check the weather, guys, before betting this game. If it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of wind, I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Look for both quarterbacks to be dueling it out. I could see this one going over the total of 50. Slight lean to the Bears in this one with you, Clay. I kind of want to take that bait from the bookmakers as well, but I like the over here.
Okay. We're in agreement on the over. You want the Bears in the second half. If you like the Bears, I don't think that's a bad idea. I'm taking them plus 3.5, and I may double down in the second half depending on what we see. That's the that's the NFL divisional round action. Miami. I'm going to be down in Miami for this game. They're up to 8.5-point underdogs against Indiana. This is Miami's home football stadium. even though Indiana might I think likely, have more fans. I'm taking Miami and the under. My thesis on this, Kelly, is that the Miami defense, I know they didn't get great pressure on Ole Miss, and that has me a bit nervous. And we know that that Indiana has cut through everyone in front of them like a hot knife through butter. I mean, they have been psychopathic in their destruction of Alabama and in their destruction of Oregon, coming off the Big Ten championship game win over Ohio State. That is 3 straight elite wins. Miami maybe a little bit fortunate to get past Ole Miss. They did dominate against Ohio State, and that is the game I'm coming back to, Kelly. I think with time to get ready in their home stadium, Mario Cristobal is going to be able to play the disrespect card. And I still think Indiana will find a way to win. I think it's a field goal-ish game. But I think the value is on Miami plus all these points and the under. Now, look, it may be 56-3, and I'll look like the ultimate moron, which won't be the first time because the way Indiana has played the last 3 games, I can understand why somebody would take that perspective. But I just think Miami in their home stadium, with everything on the line, I think they're playing with house money. They were the 10 seed. They had to fight all the way through. They've been playing very well since November, defensively in particular. If we can avoid Carson Beck doing what Dante Moore did and throw a pick 6 on the first play of the game and just maintain the possession and move the football expeditiously and reliably without necessarily looking for the big play all the time, I think this is a fourth quarter game, low scoring, something like 24-21.
I would take that all day long, Clay. I haven't decided if I'm going to come back on Miami. So I've been doing something a little untraditional for about the last week and a half. Last week, I teased the Bills and the Bears with Indiana. And this week, I teased the Bills and the Seahawks with Indiana. And I also have, I think, a Broncos teaser in there somewhere. I got to double check that account. But the reality is this is the national championship game. And I don't love the spread here. I really don't. I could see the scenarios playing out that you just mentioned. I could see an absolute and utter blowout if Carson Beck throws 2, maybe even 3 picks here. He has been playing a lot better. He does feel disrespected, I'm sure. I sat right here. I said, put me in so I can bet against him. Yeah, well, that didn't work out very well for me. But that A&M game could have really went either way. 48.5 is the current total. I agree with you. I lean the under here. I think this is going to be much more of a defensive battle than people expect. But again, coming back on Miami, I haven't decided yet. I thought, all right, they're going to get sick of everybody teasing Indiana down below that field goal. So they're going to move it to 9, 9.5, 10. And they haven't. And I'm going, all right, if I get 10 with Miami, I have no choice but to take it. I don't know if I'm going to even still. Hoosiers 5-0 against the spread against ranked teams. You mentioned Miami's home field advantage, but please remember Indiana, and I don't think any of us knew this until seeing these bowl games or these neutral site games, how many alumni they had. I'm like,
supposedly the biggest alumni base in the country, and they have just, I mean, like, to be fair, if you're an Indiana football fan, you've lived through the absolute worst of all time. So I understand why they've shown up in big numbers. I agree with you, what you're going to say. I actually think Indiana's going to have a home field advantage. Now, this is somewhat interesting because part of being home field advantage is traditionally just that you feel comfortable, I think, in your surroundings. But also you usually have your fans that are there. We're flipping that a little bit, right? Miami is going to be playing at home, but they're not going to necessarily have the home field advantage that a home field team would typically have.
Absolutely. And the reality is Indiana fans, typically, I think we saw it in the Ohio State game. Like, hardly any Ohio State fans were there because they expected to go in and win as a 9-point favorite over Miami. And they said, well, why would I want to go to that when I could go to a quarterfinal game or I could go to the national championship? And here we are. So I do think it's going to be rather interesting. But as far as giving anybody any points, I maybe give Miami a point or two, where there's during the regular season, you're giving them 3.5, maybe 4. I've been to that stadium several times for Miami games. Guess what? you can quiet those people up really, really quick. I went to the Michigan State Miami game a few years ago, and I was less than impressed with the home field advantage that is so, minus the fact that it's excruciatingly hot. Good news is for Indiana, there's a nice cold front coming through the state of Florida today. That's why I'm in a sweater. So don't think it's going to be hot. And the sideline across the way in the sun is going to hurt anybody because this game's also at night. But I'll stop being long-winded here, Clay, and just say that I lean towards the Indiana side. These national championships have not been close as of late. Even last year, we saw Ohio State win by margin. I think Indiana ends up running away with this one. I know everybody's going to be on Indiana, and I'm the dog better, but not this time.
Outstanding stuff as always. Kelly Stewart, we will be back on Friday, maybe. I don't even remember what day Thursday of next week to break down AFC, NFC championship game action. And then Kelly will be with us in San Francisco for Super Bowl week. We'll do a big breakdown of everything surrounding that game whenever it is set. Kelly, keep up the good work. Enjoy the cold front. I'm coming down to Florida on Sunday. I was not pleased to see how cold it's going to be in Miami, relatively speaking. So maybe we can get a little bit of a break there. This has been The Fade. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Clay Travis. She's Kelly Stewart. And thank you. We'll see you next Thursday.